I live alone. Not because I dislike people, I just never learned how to be around them. My apartment is on the second floor of a quiet building outside Chiba. No wife, no children, just me, a few antique blades on the wall, and the soft rhythm of old rain gutters tapping through the night. I swing my swords every evening after work. Calms me. The repetition, the focus, each cut a breath, each form a memory carved into muscle. I've never used them on anything living. Never wanted to, until tonight. It started with the sirens. I was in the middle of a kata, the diagonal upward cut, Keisagiri, when my phone buzzed. The screen went red. Warning, emergency alert. An unknown contagion is spreading across the Kanto region. Symptoms include sudden aggression, hallucinations, identity confusion. Citizens are advised to remain indoors. Avoid those showing signs. Do not let anyone in. This is not a drill. First I laughed. Hallucinations? Identity confusion? I thought it was some AI glitch, a hacked alert system. Then I heard the screaming. It came from downstairs. A wet, animal sound. Then glass breaking. Then silence. Followed by the slow dragging of feet. Unsteady. Scraping. I turned off the lights. I stood perfectly still. Outside, something moved past the window. A woman, or what used to be one. Her neck was bent the wrong way, her head twitching with each step. Her fingernails were gone, scraped into the brick wall as she walked by, one hand dragging like it didn't know it was broken. She stopped right in front of my door and spoke. "Niku, let me in. You left the door open." But I didn't, and I never told anyone my name. I grabbed my katana from the rack and held my breath. She scratched once, twice, and then slowly started laughing. A warped, choking giggle that ended in a gurgle as she collapsed against the wood. I heard a crack, like something inside her broke. Then nothing. No footsteps walking away. Just the faint sound of something crawling along the wall. I stayed there, frozen, blade in hand, staring at the handle of the door, wondering how she knew my name, and why the voice she used was my mother's. I didn't sleep. I sat in the corner with the katana across my lap, eyes locked on the front door. The scratching had stopped, but I knew something was still out there, listening, waiting. The sun rose slowly, like it didn't want to be here either. I finally stood around 6 a.m., opened the sliding window, and peeked into the alley behind the building. No people, no movement, just a trail of dark fluid across the concrete. Sticky, congealed, almost black. It led around the side of the complex. I didn't follow it. Instead, I looked down at the katana in my hand. My grandfather's blade. He gave it to me when I turned 16. I'd never cut anything with it, not even bamboo. Now my fingers were clenched so tightly around it. My knuckles were white. Then my phone buzzed again. New alert, different tone. Warning, emergency update. Contagion confirmed to alter vocal memory. Victims mimic voices of loved ones. Avoid responding. Do not trust familiar sounds. Infection spread vector. Unknown. Martial law enacted. Stay indoors. Do not approach soldiers. Soldiers? I moved to the kitchen, keeping the blade close, and opened the blinds just enough to see the street. They were there, in hazmat suits, CDC logos, walking slowly, heads scanning the buildings. Not searching, watching. One of them stopped in front of my complex. He looked up, straight at my window, then raised a finger to his lips. Shoo! And then he turned and kept walking. Something about that gesture didn't feel military. I checked the door. Still locked. No signs of force. But on the floor, tucked beneath the crack of the door, was a note. Just one line. "You've already been touched." I dropped it. My heart went cold. What does that mean? I haven't gone outside. I haven't touched anyone. I haven't opened the closet. The one where the voice came from. I walked toward it slowly, blade ready. The smell hit first, iron and rot. I pulled the door open in one motion, swinging the blade forward like instinct, and hit something. Screeched, not human but not animal. A body fell forward, tangled in the coats. Limbs wrong, bent, skin pulsing like there was something crawling beneath it. It lunged. I didn't think. I swung again. This time, the blade cut deep through the collarbone down to the hip. Blood hit the wall in an arc. The thing twitched, jaw unhinged, still smiling with lips that used to be someone's mother. I dropped to my knees, breathing hard, covered in something warm and thick. That's when I realized. It looked like my old neighbor, the one who vanished last week. But the thing that really scared me? I didn't feel bad. I felt ready. I wrapped the blade in a towel and cleaned what I could off the walls. The smell stuck to everything. Skin, clothes, even my teeth, like copper and mold and burnt plastic. I didn't cry. I didn't panic. I just felt cold. Around noon, the sirens started again. Not the alert tone, real sirens. Wailing, fading in and out like someone was dragging them through fog. Then came the loudspeaker. This is the Neon Infectious Control Force. All uninfected individuals must report to the Shinkawa Secondary School for processing and relocation. Bring no one with you. Do not speak to voices you recognize. Do not look directly at anyone approaching without visible ID. My building was silent. No neighbors left. Just empty units and blood trails. I left. The school was 3 blocks away. Every window on the way was shattered. No birds. No dogs barking. Just the occasional sound of crying in the distance, but no one crying for help. When I reached the school, soldiers aimed rifles at me until I dropped the sword. They scanned me. Eyes, skin, pulse. No one spoke. Then they led me to a side room. That's where I met her. A woman in a gray CDC coat, no name tag. Her hair was tied back tight, and she wore 2 guns on her hip like she wasn't afraid to use them. She looked at me for a long time before speaking. You've seen them. I nodded. Did it speak in someone's voice you knew? I hesitated, then nodded again. That means it touched you. You still seem lucid, that's good. Means it didn't finish. Finish what? I asked. She sighed and pulled up a tablet. Showed me a brain scan, warped, black veins webbed through the cerebrum. It doesn't spread like a virus. Not in the way you're thinking. It doesn't use blood or air. It spreads through recognition. What does that mean? It shows you someone familiar, someone you trust, a memory. Once you accept it as real, once you respond or believe, it begins reconstructing your neural identity. It replaces you by mimicking your memory pathways. I stared at her, cold sweat crawling down my back. It copies you? I asked. Worse, it becomes you, but it's not perfect. It gets details wrong. It uses the people you loved to hollow you out. I remembered the photo on my table, the one I never took, the smile that felt like mine. She leaned closer. And if it's speaking as you to someone else, then someone else might already be dead. I stood up. So what do we do? She didn't answer at first. Then she handed me back my sword. You already did the hard part. And then added, we're setting fire to this whole block at midnight. If you have anything left to say to yourself, do it now. The sword felt heavier now, not because of guilt, but because I finally understood what it was for. I left the school just after dusk. The woman in the CDC coat, Dr. Hoshino, didn't stop me. She just watched as I walked out into the smoke-soaked air, her hand resting near her gun, like she wasn't sure I was still me. The streets were empty again. Only the wind moved. I headed home, but not to pack. I didn't want keepsakes or letters. I went back for one thing, the notebook my mother gave me before she died. I didn't even remember leaving it on the nightstand, but there it was, untouched, just like the day I buried her. I picked it up, flipped through the pages, and stopped cold. Page 12 had a photo tucked inside. I had never seen it before. It was me, standing in front of our apartment building. Yesterday, holding the katana, smiling, but I was home all day yesterday. I dropped the notebook. My reflection in the window twisted. Not the glass, the angle. My head turned in the image, just a split second before I actually moved. I spun around, blade ready. Nothing, but the door was open. I hadn't opened it. and on the inside of the door written in blood, "She's not who you think she was." I backed away, and that's when I heard my mother's voice. "Niku, you never asked why I gave you that blade. It was outside, down the hall, soft, wrong. It wasn't for training. It was for this." I opened the door. Empty hallway, except at the far end, a figure, silhouetted, unmoving, wearing my mother's apron, hands behind her back, and something writhing just beneath her skin, like her bones were trying to remember how to be human. "Come home, Niku. I've missed you." I stepped back, raised the blade. "You're not her." The voice changed, dropped 2 octaves. "No," it rasped. But she screamed exactly like this. Charged. I swung. Blood exploded up the walls, but something else spilled too. Static. A wave of sound that hit me like a freight train. I dropped to my knees, clutching my head as memories that weren't mine flashed behind my eyes. My 5th birthday. A temple bell. Her hands, soaked in blood, handing me the katana. Don't ever let them finish the sentence. And then the voice was gone. The body vanished. Just a trail of blood leading down into the sewers. I didn't follow it, but I knew where I was going next. The temple outside the city, where my mother used to disappear for days at a time. The place she never spoke about. The place that kept coming up in the wrong memories. I didn't sleep. I walked, katana still warm in my hand. The blood trail led back toward the city. Deeper than the CDC perimeter. Past the cordons. Past the checkpoints they abandoned a week ago. No one tried to stop me. No one could. The sirens had gone silent. And the sky was still bleeding. It wasn't rain anymore. It was thicker, stickier, pooled red in gutters. Slid down windows in slow, deliberate streaks like the buildings themselves were crying. I passed a flipped ambulance. No glass in the windows. Lights still flashing dim red through fog. Next to it, a body hunched over. Not eating, just rocking. I moved closer. Quiet. She was whispering to herself. A teenager, maybe my age. Skin peeled in long strips off her arms. But she didn't seem to notice. Or care. He's in my head. He's in my skin. I let him wear my voice. I froze. Her eyes rolled toward me, white. Pupils gone. "You're still breathing air?" she hissed. "That's not safe. That's not safe." She reached into her mouth and pulled out a tooth. Then another. Then more. A handful of them, like she was emptying her pockets. I backed away, but the wind picked up behind me. Not wind. Breathing. I turned fast, katana ready, and there it was. 10 feet tall. Shadow thin. No face. Dozens of arms. It stood still as stone. Watching. Not moving. Not blinking. Until the girl turned toward it and laughed. "He likes you." I didn't wait. I ran. But the city wasn't the same anymore. Every alley looked wrong. Like the angles had shifted. Buildings leaned in too close. Windows were too dark. And the further I ran, the more I saw them, the people who weren't people anymore. Some were just standing still. Others moved like insects. One of them, a man in a business suit, was banging his head against a power pole over and over. His skull had split open, but he kept going rhythmically, blood painting words across the metal. "Open the sky." And then I saw the truck. White, CDC, cracked windshield, still running. A man inside slumped, but alive. I banged on the window. He flinched, then opened the door just enough for me to slide in. Gun on his lap, sweat pouring down his face. "You're not one of them," he muttered. "What the hell is going on?" I asked. He didn't look at me, just stared ahead. "It's not airborne," he whispered. "It's visual, auditory, pattern. You see it, hear it, feel it. Something inside you opens, and then you stop being you. So it's not a virus. Not in the way we thought." I noticed the photos in the back of the truck. Dozens. Faces peeled open. Some smiling, some still screaming. "What do I do?" I asked. His answer chilled my blood. "You stop looking." Then he raised the gun. Not at me, at himself. Bang. The shot rang out like thunder inside the truck. For a moment, everything was still. I stared at the man's body. His gun was still in his hand, head tilted back, face at peace, which somehow felt worse. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I reached across and shut his eyes. Then I started the engine. The CDC truck growled like something dying. The dash was cracked. Gauges flickered. But the radio blinked to life, an analog channel encrypted. And it was broadcasting. Zone 7A collapsed. Repeat, 7A is compromised. Do not engage visual contact with aerials. Broadcast cycle will reset in 40 minutes. Then static. Then a final whisper. Garbled, but clear enough to scrape the back of my skull. Do not listen to the sky. I floored it. The city twisted around me. More figures in the street now. Some walked in circles. Some just stared up into the rain. One had no jaw and kept trying to speak anyway. Mouth flapping open and shut like a puppet. Blood pouring down his chest with every motion. Another was dragging herself across the asphalt with her fingernails, moaning to no one. The buildings looked taller than before, like they'd stretched, like they were leaning in to listen. Then I saw the first one, the aerial. It wasn't flying. It was floating just above the rooftops, enormous and silent, like it was suspended by invisible strings. Its limbs were long and wrong, twitching like broken antennae. It had no face, just a massive slit in its torso, pulsing like a throat. When it turned, I felt my ears bleed. No sound, just pressure, like it was humming a frequency too low to hear but deep enough to undo you. I swerved, slammed into a parked car. The truck spun. I heard whispering behind me. I turned, nothing. But when I faced forward again, the glass of the windshield was fogged from the inside. I wiped it with my sleeve, and there, written in blood across the windshield, "You were chosen to hear it." I backed up fast. Radio static hissed again. Then a new voice, raspy, panicked. "This is Dr. Imai. If anyone is alive in Tokyo sector, do not seek shelter. The shelters are compromised. Repeat, the shelters have synchronized. Do not look at the sky. Do not listen to them. Cover your ears." Gone. The broadcast ended. But outside, the aerial slowly turned again, hovering silently above the city, dripping with something that wasn't water. And all around me, the infected looked up at it, smiling. Then one of them pointed at the truck, and they started to move. They didn't run. They didn't sprint. They drifted, dozens of them, eyes empty, skin wet with rain and blood, walked toward the CDC truck like they were sleepwalking. No urgency, like they knew I had nowhere else to go. I threw the gear into reverse and peeled down the street, metal screaming beneath the tires as I swerved between broken glass and abandoned vehicles. But even with the engine roaring, I could still hear it. The hum, low, vibrating the inside of my teeth. A voice without sound. The aerial was still following from above, drifting over rooftops like a ghost. Not fast, just present, like it was watching me figure out what I already knew. I couldn't get out of the city. I skidded to a stop in a narrow alley and killed the engine. Held my breath. Silence. Until I heard tapping. Not behind me. Not from outside. From inside the truck. Slowly, I turned toward the back. There was someone there, pressed against the rear window, face smeared with blood, hair soaked, trembling. I raised my sword. The figure whispered, "Niku." I froze. That voice. Familiar. I unlocked the door and pulled it open. And there she was. A girl I hadn't seen in a year. Yuka. We went to the same high school before I dropped out. She was quiet. Read horror novels. Laughed at bad jokes. Now, she was broken, but aware. Not like the others. "You're still in there?" I asked. She smiled, but her teeth were wrong. Too sharp, like they'd grown differently. "Mostly," she said. "It doesn't like you. It said your mind is loud. Too sharp. It wants me to kill you, but I made a deal." I stepped back. "A deal?" She nodded. Slowly. "I show you the way, and it lets me keep one memory." Her eyes welled with tears. "I picked you. I gripped the hilt of my sword tighter. Everything in me screamed to run, to slice, to finish her before she changed her mind. But her voice still sounded like her. It came from the sky, Niku, but it didn't fall. It was opened. Something opened it. And now it's learning. Fast. What does it want? She looked up. Blood falling from the sky like slow rain, catching in her hair. You! I didn't ask why, because deep down I already knew. Something was wrong with me, something that kept me uninfected. And the thing above the city? It had noticed. The tunnels stank of metal and rotting air. I followed Yuka through the broken metro gate, sword drawn. Each step echoing into the dark like a warning we weren't supposed to hear. Where are we going? I whispered. She didn't look back, just walked, barefoot, skin torn, still bleeding. The emergency broadcast node, Sector A9, is still active. It never stopped transmitting. Not really. I kept my eyes on the walls. They pulsed. Not visibly, but I felt them, like the concrete was breathing behind the brick. Every now and then, I'd hear whispers that didn't belong to us. Things like, "We remember your skin. You're not awake yet, Niku. Swing it again." I gripped my sword tighter. My hands were shaking. "Yuka," I said. "You said it wants me. Why?" She finally stopped, turned to face me. "Because you don't hear it." "What?" "Everyone hears it. Everyone obeys. But not you. You cut through it. The frequency can't take root." I blinked. Then it clicked. The sword. Not just a hobby. Not just muscle memory. The rhythm. The silence. My mind, every time I fought, it was like I could block the signal. Then something screamed ahead. Not a voice. Not human. It was like a mountain sobbing through torn speakers. Yuka shivered. "It's close now," she whispered. "It knows you're here." We turned a final corner. And there it was. A glass chamber. Old tech. Fused with wires that pulsed like veins. Inside was a control chair, facing a massive screen filled with static and warped images. A face flickered in the distortion. Mine, but older. Smiling. "Niku," the screen said. Yuka backed away. "You were never outside it. You were grown for this. Steel was placed in your hands before you were born. You're not resisting it. You're waking it up." I raised the sword. "Then I'm putting it back to sleep." But the moment I stepped forward, Yuka screamed. Her body lifted off the ground like she was weightless. Her eyes rolled back. Her mouth opened too wide, and from her throat came 1,000 voices. "You are the chosen frequency." I ran. I swung. The sword struck the broadcast terminal, sparking fire and smoke, static shrieking into pure silence. The ceiling collapsed. Wires snapped like tendons. The chamber went dark, and Yuka's body fell limp, hitting the ground like a puppet cut from its strings. No more whispers, just silence. And then, a siren. From above. "Emergency alert. Final override. Broadcast terminated. Sector shut down complete. Subject NIKU has been neutralized." Wait, what? I looked around. No one else was alive. Just me. But the system had called me a subject. Like I was part of it all along. Like I was never meant to win. And far, far above, through the broken metro grates, I saw blood begin to fall from the sky again. Heavier this time. Like rain before a storm. Darkness. Thick, wet, heavy in my throat. Then, a gasp. My eyes snapped open. I wasn't in the tunnels anymore. Not in the city. Not in Japan. I was in a white room. Cold metal walls. No shadows. No scent. Just silence. And a red blinking light. Subject 08. NIKU. Neutralized. I sat up. Chest bare. Electrodes still stuck to my skin. Tubes connected to my arms. My sword, my real sword, was mounted on the wall behind glass. I ripped the wires out. No pain. Just instinct. Then the door hissed open. A woman in a lab coat stepped in. Hair tied back. Calm. Like this was just another test. "You stabilized faster than expected," she said. "Guess we'll need to update the containment model." I stood. What is this? She tapped a clipboard. Controlled infection environment. You were selected due to your high neural plasticity and resistance to auditory intrusion. In simpler terms, your brain doesn't break the way others do. We gave you the virus. My fists clenched. You what? Don't act surprised, Niku. None of that city was real. It was projection. We needed to see how the virus would behave when given a will, a sword, and a reason to resist. I looked down at my arms. They were marked. Rows of numbers. Scars. Yuka. Another test subject. She bonded with the infection. Not as well as you, obviously. I turned to the glass, staring at my sword. The woman kept talking. We were never trying to cure it. We were trying to weaponize it. You were the only one that made it through without breaking. She smiled. Congratulations, Niku. You're patient 0 and the antidote. I didn't say anything. I stepped forward, pressed my palm against the glass. The sword hummed, sang, like it remembered me. The glass cracked, then shattered. The woman stepped back, eyes wide. Wait. The conditioning should still be active. I grabbed the sword, steel in my hands, memory in my blood. And in that moment, I remembered the city. I remembered the rain, the voices, the way the infection had stared through me, because I was never outside it. I was it. The lab lights flickered red. Emergency lockdown activated. Subject 08 has breached containment. I turned back to the scientist. You should have left me asleep. Then I moved. Faster than before. Because I wasn't 18. I wasn't even human. I was a weapon. And I'd just woken up.